let's start animating this one-legged object, whatever this is. So the intent of this is to introduce a few new things. So one is, like we talked about last time, is IK. So we're going to introduce IK in this. So that's the biggest thing. The other is two other things that you're often going to see when you deal with like a biped. We're going to see a foot roll and a foot flap. So we're going to go over those now. Here is the setup. This is going to feel similar in what you've done before. So all the things that we've learned already, we're going to apply all of those on top of this and then add, IK and the foot roll and the foot flap. So we're going to do 3 bounces, and this thing is going to bounce once, twice, and 3 times. So this should seem familiar at this point. Let's go ahead and get into animation right here. I'm going to pull this all the way over. I'm going to pull this open like this. And let's go ahead and let's make sure, let's only animate in the side view. Again, let's keep things simple for us so that we can focus on certain things. Let's go ahead and select this top control. It's already positioned where we want, so we don't need to move our positioning control. So that's already good as is. Now let's go ahead, let's go like this. We're going to go into, once we have this selected, let's go into pose mode. There we go. And I'll just go quickly over these controls. It's always a good idea when you get a new rig to go over all the different controls before you start animating. So, and move them around. So I'm going to pull this out like this. So I just clicked and dragged and pulled out. I'm going to move this down and up, and so I can see that when I move this up like this, the foot moves and it kind of drags with it. The knee bends right here. So if I rotate this, I can see that way, that's how it works like this. And then I'll notice that there's a control right here. And if I move this left and right, I'll notice that that's where the knee points. For the most part in this example, we probably won't have to deal with this too much, right? But it's good to know that this moves with it. One thing to note, that when I move this doesn't move. So I may, if I get into a certain position, like this is going to, now the knee is pointing here versus in the forward. So I would have to keep that in mind. Yeah, the next control is going to be this one right here. The foot control. You'll notice that this does move with the foot control, so that's good to know. We'll probably always want this in front of our body, since this is where our knee points. Like if we do it back here, you can see that now the knee is pointing backwards wrongly. Cool. So we've got our foot, and this moves like we would expect. Great. Now let's go ahead and introduce 2 other controls. They're these ones right here. So if we select this back one right here and we hit R, we'll see that this rotates like this. This is a foot roll. So this is a very common control. Basically, it pivots from like the base of the foot, like right where the toes start, and it goes something like this. Whenever you do like any sort of biped character, or even a lot of quadruped characters, you're going to have something that is like this, a control. So that's good to note. Let's go ahead. Oh, interestingly enough, it looks like the default rotation value is already 1 on that. And it looks like for the toe flop it is too. That's definitely good to note. So that if ever you want to put it back to default, it's not 0. This one you put back to 1. Probably could have done that better, and probably could have made that 0, but in this case it looks like it's not. So that's good to know. The other control is this right here, which is toe flap, and that moves the toe obviously like this. Cool. And again, this is 1 and 0, 0, 0. So that's great for us to note. So that when oftentimes when you're animating, you'll want to go back to the default. And so it's good to know that those 2 are both 1 for default. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and start animating. So first up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select all these controls right here like this. And I'm just going to go ahead and key them all down on my first frame. So let's pull this up like here. I'm going to put this into the graph editor like that. Great. Now I'll go ahead and set a key like so. Great. Let's see if we got a key now on everything. It looks like we do. Great. So that's our first frame. I'll go ahead and select all of these again. I'm just holding down shift to select them. And I'm gonna go, this time I'm gonna go 15 frames later, and I'm gonna set a key. I'll say all channels. Keying, if we wanted to do that thing, we could set a key set where we click this as well, so that it keys everything. We went over this in a previous lecture, so I won't go over that again. Let's go ahead and our first pose is what? Something should be coming to mind. If it's not, our first pose is going to be an antic pose. So I'm going to go 10 frames later. I'm going to go to like 25. You don't have to do this exactly. Then I'm just going to grab this top control, and I'm going to go down. He's going to antic down like this. Great. I'm going to do something along the lines of like this. And I'll go ahead and, set a key like that. I want to make sure that I did key all of these. It looks like I did. Great. Great. Let's go ahead now. So now we've got our animation down. I'm going to turn on auto key, which is right here as well. Then, so it looks like 25. I'm going to do the first jump. And I'm going to do it something like this. I'm going to do a smaller jump actually in this time, because I'm going to do dun, dun. Yeah, so I'm going to do something along the lines of this. So I went ahead and I just moved this, just this control, and I hit S. You'll notice that all these other controls are still down here. Even though the foot is up here, that's because it's stretched as long as it can. So if we grab the foot control now and we move this up, you'll notice that it'll as soon as it can, it'll try to get back into its pose that you're telling it to, which is this pose right here. Then I'll go ahead, and in this case I'm going to do something like, this. It doesn't have to be perfect for now. Great. He's really leggy. I guess that's his name. And then I'm going to go 10 frames later, and I'm going to grab this top control, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move him down like this. Then I'll grab his foot control, which is this one right here, and I'll go ahead and I'll rotate this. Try to maintain this try to only move this on one axis. You'll notice that I accidentally moved this on, oh no, it looks like you might even want to lock X so that you don't accidentally animate it on X. Great. I'm going to zero this out like that. Then I'm actually going to zero out this X rotation just so it's flat. Great. So, and then I'll key it there like that. So let's go ahead and see our first jump like this. Great. Then I will go ahead, and since it lands on 45, I selected both the foot and the body control. I'm going to key it on 45. I'll go to frame 55, and I'll move this down a little bit like this, and that will be my like landing squash pose. Great. And then I would, at this point, I'm not going to do it for you guys, since at this point you guys would be able to do it. You'll do the second jump, and then you'll do the third jump. I'm just going to step through this first jump for you. So we've got something that looks like this. Now, if we go ahead and play this, we clearly have not animated. This looks pretty bad right now. There's a lot of things that aren't looking good. Let's go ahead and reduce the frame down to 60 so that we can play just this part. But looking at this, I can tell right away that I probably have too many frames. So let's go ahead, before we even get into the graph editor and deal with all of this stuff, let's go ahead and reduce some of the frames that we've got. So I think our antic is probably fine, the 10 frames down, but it's this 10 frames up, 10 frames down, because we're not doing a very big bounce. So maybe, why don't we reduce this by 2 frames? So I'm going to select all the controls again. So I'm going to select the foot roll, the foot flop, and then this. It's important to select them all, so you don't have offset keys at this point. And then I'll move this over by 2 frames, and I'll move this one over by 2 frames as well. So now we're doing an 8 frame up and an 8 frame down. So if we were to go ahead and play this now, that's probably a little bit better. Let's reduce it by 1 more frame. Let's do a 7 frame up and a 7 frame down. Great. I feel like that's a little bit better. I can tell right away that a smaller bounce is going to be more difficult with this character to make look good. I may, just because of how big he is, I may have him bounce up a little bit higher. That's what's going through my brain right now. But let's go ahead and actually just get in there and start making the up and down work now first. So we're going to do this in the graph editor. I'm going to select the body. I'm going to go down. All of this should be familiar. We've got our Z up and down right here like this. I'm going to go into view, and I'm going to say only selected keyframe handles like this. Great. And then I'm going to turn off show cursor right here like that. And at this point, this is my up and down. I'm just paying, this is a bouncing ball. So even though now we have a leg to it and all of that, generally it's still just like, it's going to have the same kind of principles of a bouncing ball, meaning we want hang time up here and it should be faster in the fall. One of the key differences here that we didn't have before is that now when it lands, we have a spring. So before, where the largest spacing, like when we had, let's see. So when you had a bouncing ball before, like this, your largest spacing was going to be like right here, right? It was going to be right before contact. You're generally still going to have that. But this is going to be now, like if you imagine, this is going to be when the foot contacts the ground. So like if this is the ground now, that's going to be your largest spacing right there, because after that, once the ground hits, then the spacing is going to get a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller, because this is going to act as basically a spring. Like if you think of your leg as a spring, as soon as that foot hits, then it's gonna ease that spacing down. So try to think about it in those regards. Let's erase that now, so that we can get back to animating. So that's one of the key differences here. So I actually do, we can see that I already have an ease. Before, what we would have done is we would have went ahead and done something. We would have broken this tangent handle, right? We would have went into key, we would have went into handle type, and we would have changed this to free. Instead of that, because we actually want this little bit of ease in here, because this is where the leg is pushing, what we want is we want the hang time up here. So we're gonna stretch this out pretty far like this, like something like that, and then we're gonna stretch this out pretty far as well, like that, so that we get something, yeah, and we can tell that even right away that's feeling quite a bit better. Right now, I'm not looking at the foot so much as I'm just looking at kind of this overall feeling, the up and down of this. Now I can tell that the up and down is much better, but the forward momentum is definitely an issue, and it's the main issue that students run into with an assignment like this. Is you'll notice that it's jumping straight up, and then right around here it feels like a gust of wind comes and blows them forward really quickly. Do you see how slow it goes forward here, but then it goes really fast there? So if you see that, that's one of the important things to note. Now that's going to be in our forward momentum. So if I go ahead and look at my Y location, my Y location is going to be what's going to be our forward momentum. It's going to be this. And so we're going to want our forward momentum to pick up much sooner. So right around like right around here is where we need this to be a lot. We need this to go forward a lot more. So there's a few different things we could do here. What I'm going to do actually is I'm actually going to set another key here on 28. So I'm just going to set a key right here, and I'm actually going to move this forward like this. And then I'll go ahead and I'll move this one forward as well. And I'll move this one forward. That might be a little bit too much. Something like around like this. And I'll go ahead and hit play. And that's feeling much better now. Now my forward momentum is happening with my push off, which is what we want. Great, cool. Let's go ahead now and let's take a look at our foot. Now that we've kind of looked at our forward momentum, let's check this out a little bit more. Our forward momentum, that feels about right. I feel like this is, I'm actually going to push my up just a little bit. It's just mostly for demonstration purposes. Yeah, that's going to be slightly better just to help demonstrate for you guys. Cool. Now let's go into the foot. So we the foot. Let's here's a big thing to know. I want you to look. So we have to, when we're animating the foot, we have to keep track mentally of also what's going on here with the body, because we don't want them to move and stop at the same time, right? So if we look at the upper body first, and we look, we'll notice that it's going down, it's going down, it's going down, and then right on frame 25 is when it changes direction and it starts moving up. So it's on 25 that it starts going up. Now, if we look at the foot now, and we pay attention to that, you'll notice that the foot also starts moving up on 25. Now, we don't want that because it's going to feel like it just floats up like this. If they both move up at the same time, then it's not going to feel like the foot is pushing the ball up. So we've got to keep this foot on the ground for later. So we want this foot to be on the ground all the way up until frame 27, so 2 frames later. So we can just grab this key down here. I'm going to do this here in the timeline, and I'm going to move this one 2 frames later so that that foot stays on the ground this whole time like that. Cool. And then I am going to, so now we have that foot on the ground. In my brain, I'm thinking, okay, here is where we'll add the foot roll. We'll add it later though. Cool. Then the foot takes off and it's here. And now I'm going to again pay attention to the up and down of this. So the sphere is going up, 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 and then on frame 32 is when it starts to go down. If we take a look at this foot right here, you'll notice that it goes up, 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 and on frame 33 it starts going down at the same time. So we don't want this. What we want is overlapping action. So that's what we're going to introduce here, is some overlapping action. We want the ball to start going down while the foot keeps going up. So this is going to be like we did with the pendulum, like where we had the bottom ones overlap the top ones. Now we're going to do this with translation versus rotation. So we want this to keep going up. So we pushed off, and in this case, I'm actually going to do this with keys. So I'm actually going to go to frame 35. I'm going to change my local to global here, and I'm going to move this up like this, and I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to get myself in a pose that's something like, maybe something like this, and I'm going to set a key. So now we've got something that goes like this. So now my foot is still going up. We can see that it's barely going up right here like this, and I'll move that a little bit more. Great, all the way up until 35, and this is going down, so we're getting some compression, which is good. Great, like that. And then let's get to the landing right here. You'll notice that again, this, if we look at the angle of the foot right here, you'll notice that this angle kind of remains the same throughout all of here, right here. That's definitely telling my animator brain that something is wrong. We know shape language, which we went over in a prior one. So what is it? There's a straight line, there's a C, and there's an S, and they all mean different things, right? Right now, we basically just have this C curve right here, this reverse C curve in our knee, and nothing is really changing when we land. It's just more of a C curve. One of the good things is that our foot does stop on frame 39 and our ball continues going down. So that is a good thing. We don't want it where the ball and the foot stop going down at the same time. So that part we've already set up nicely. What we want here is we're going to want a straight. So usually you want a straight to a bend whenever you have a contact. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to grab our key, our foot control, and right now it's landing on frame, it looks like 39, and we're going to move that key one frame forward so that then it lands a frame sooner. In fact, let's push this just for the sake of it, and let's have it land 2 frames sooner. Let's have it land here like this. So this is probably, so we're going to have some timing that's a little bit off, but let's go ahead and set that up. We can see that now we're starting to introduce weight. You can see that we're already now things are starting to make a lot more sense in terms of like, oh, it feels like a push off and it feels like we're landing and the foot is stopping the ball from hitting the ground. Awesome. Great. So that is our first blocking pass. Let's add one more pose before we get into so right now this is landing at 44, and then let's we'll just push this up to 45 like that. So we'll just go like that. You guys will end up doing another bounce, but in this demonstration we're just going to do this one bounce like this. Great. Cool. So that is that. Let's go ahead now and do the foot roll. So we blocked this all out. Let's go back now and let's add the foot roll control. So starting around here is where we're going to want to start seeing that foot roll control. So let's we want it on the way up. We don't want it, you don't want to start doing the foot roll while the ball's going down. So it looks like 25 is where it's going to start, and then I am going to rotate this up, and you'll notice that nothing really changes much with the way we currently did it. Great. I'm actually going to I'm going to grab this and lower this for demonstration purposes mostly. There we go. Just slightly so that, there we go. Great. So now our foot roll is going up like this. So it's going for 2 frames, and our heel is going up before our toe is going up. That's what's important about the foot roll. Cool. So let's go ahead and hit play. Great. I can see that the foot roll is I didn't turn it off. Don't worry, we'll get that fixed. So I have the foot roll going from right now 25 to it looks like 28 right now, and then it's staying here. So as soon as your foot leaves the ground, as soon as it's in a pose like this, you want to get rid of the foot roll. So usually you're going to get rid of the foot roll over 1 frame. So that means in this case I'm going to key my foot roll on 27. So from 25 to 27 it's going up, and then on frame 28 I'm going to key my foot roll again, and I'm going to zero it out. I'll go ahead and just zero it out like that. So now there shouldn't be any more foot roll throughout for the rest of it. Great. So now that I've done that, now you typically don't ever want your foot pulling away from your controllers like this. So I am going to set a key on frame 28 on my foot control now, and I'm going to move my foot control up, and I'm going to rotate it down like this. And I'm going to move it like this and move it. And I forgot that this is 1. Remember, our default was 1 for our foot roll. Great. And I'm going to move this control down like this. We typically are going to want it straight here. And I'm going to do a pose like this. So we want from here to here, we want it to feel like this. So our controllers are going to do a lot of work over this 1 frame. Our foot roll is going to go away over this 1 frame, and then our main control that was down on the ground is typically going to move a lot over this frame right here. And a good way to think about this is you generally kind of want your toes to point where they were. So like if you imagine the toes were here and then you go to the next frame, you generally want them pointing there. So I probably have done this maybe a little bit too much. I could do something more like that. Yep. I might even be able to move this like that, so that it fills. There we go. Great. So now we have our foot roll, and now our controller is going up over that frame. Let's go ahead and see what we've got going now. Now it looks a little bit weird because our foot control moves a lot over this one frame and then it barely moves here. So our spacing is all wrong. So we got to look at our spacing for our main control now. So let's go ahead and do that in the graph editor. We're going to look at kind of our translation right here. Ooh, it looks like we have a few controls that are quaternion. If you shouldn't have that. I'll have that fixed before, so you guys shouldn't see that. All of these should be Euler. And not quaternion. It's just a different way of interpreting controls. There we go. Should be good now. Let's. I'll get that fixed. 1 second. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Just had to quickly fix that quaternion thing. That shouldn't be an issue that you guys run into. We are back now to seeing that weird spacing issue. So let's go ahead and look at and see what's going on here. So if we look at our Y location right here, we can see that it's moving really quickly. It's slowing down right here, and then it's speeding up right here. So that's the cause of this spacing issue right now. So that's going to be fairly easy to fix. We're going to grab this and we're going to move this like this. We'll move this one down. We generally want this to be a smooth curve. If we look at this one right here, it looks like generally this is smooth too. We probably could adjust this so that it's something like that. Let's try something like that now and see what we've got. Great. So we got rid of that spacing issue now. Let's go ahead and look at this from the side. Let's make sure that we still have our overlapping thing good. Our foot is still overlapping. Great. I think our foot is actually moving forward a little bit too quickly. I want to see a few more frames where the foot is back here. So that's going to be the Y. So I just feel like generally it's moving forward too soon. So I'm actually going to pull this back just slightly like this. I'm going to pull this curve down. I'm going to pull this one back very slightly. I'm just wanting more frames of this. Then I'm going to add another key here where my foot is still angled back. So now I have a key, the rotational key like this on every, so on 27, 28, 29. Great. Great. Now let's take a look. Let's go forward. So we've added our foot roll, which is great, and it goes away over that one frame. Let's go something like here. I feel like generally this could be pushed back just a little bit. Great. We have a really large spacing. So if I look at this, if I'm looking at just the foot up and down, I can see that it's going up here, and then the very first frame, it's going down a lot. So this is a big spacing issue right here. So I'm going to need to adjust that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to set a key on my foot on frame 34, like this. I'll set a key, and then I actually want my foot to go slightly down on 35 like this, just because we had too big of a spacing gap. So my foot is still going up when this is going down. It looks like we have 2 frames of it, and now my foot is going to go down a little bit and down a little bit. Great. And then here is where it hits the ground. There we go. Let's go ahead now and get our pose, our contact pose. So typically you're going to want a contact pose where the heel hits the ground first. This is what I would suggest doing. It doesn't always have to be that, but for this assignment, that's what we're going to typically do. You're going to try to do your best to get a heel down on the ground pose first. So what I would suggest doing is I'm going to make this, I'm actually going to select the body, and in this particular case I'm actually going to have it go down just a little bit. Like that. Great. And just for this demonstration purpose, I'm going to move the heel up like this, so that our heel hits the ground. I'm actually going to rotate my foot like that as well. Great. One frame after it lands, it should be back on the ground. So now I'm going to zero this out like that. So now we have one frame like this. This contact frame is really important. It's called a contact frame. So typically you want a straight leg like this. This is something we'll get into more with the walk. The heel on the ground and the toe slightly up. Something like that. Let's play and see what we've got. Great. Cool. It's looking pretty good. I can tell that we're only seeing this for one frame though. We're seeing this straight for only one frame, so it's really hard for us. So I'm actually going to move this foot down like this on frame 36 so that we get two straight frames. And then I'm going to, on 35, move this down a little bit more to help ease our spacing. Great, let's play. There we go. And now let's get into our toe roll. So this is where the toe roll is going to come into play. The foot roll and toe roll, often students usually feel like it's not important and they don't add it. It's for this assignment it is, and because you'll always do this with characters. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the frame where the heel contacts the ground right here, and I'm going to set a key selecting the toe roll. So I'll set a key on that frame like this, and then I'm going to go back 2 frames and I'm going to set a key. Then I'm going to go forward 2 frames and I'm going to set a key. I'm only setting keys at this point. Then on frame 37 where the heel is on the ground, I'm going to rotate it up. So basically I was bookending it so that I didn't affect anything. So now I won't have any toe roll. It's going to start happening right around here. The toe's going to go there. It's going to go up. The bottom's going to hit, and then it's going to hit down. We want to see something like that. If you think like a really good example is if you watch like an old school like Goofy cartoons where he has a lot of toe flop. That's kind of what we're going for here. So let's, but a much smaller degree. Great, and we now have our bouncing ball, our first pass with overlap on the foot, and using foot roll and toe flap or flop. Cool. I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye.